working in the NICU, sometimes you have routine days, but really there are no normal days because there's always ups and downs. Something goes wrong. You think a baby's doing well, and all of a sudden there's a setback, or you have to call a parent and tell them there's a problem. That's why they're in intensive care. If there were normal days, they wouldn't be in intensive care.
So usually you see them probably at the worst time of their lives for these parents. They expected a healthy newborn. Something horrible happened. Either they delivered early, or mom got really sick and they had to take the baby, or the baby was born, everything was supposed to be normal, full-term vaginal delivery, and then suddenly the baby becomes sick and has to be brought in here.
She was a pretty sick little baby. I didn't know a lot of what was going on with her. My husband was there. I didn't see her for the first 3 days because I actually went up to ICU. And I kept asking the nurses, is my baby gonna die? Is she gonna die? Is she gonna die? They were hopeful, but the fact she was 25 weeks, she was considered a micro preemie because she was under 1,000 grams.
She was born at 25 weeks on October 1st, 2014, and she was actually due January 12th, 2015. So she was 15 weeks early. That first week we were concerned and worried, but I knew after a week that she was going to make it. She just had the fight in her. Katie's birth weight was 1 pound, 6.8 ounces. So think about it, it's like holding 4 sticks of butter.
She had a rough start. Her skin was like transparent, and you could really even see her heart beating. It was just so thin. That's how small she is. At such a young age, at 25 weeks, some babies are really feisty, and they're moving around, and some are more quiet. And she was kind of feisty from the beginning.
Preemies, everything's underdeveloped, and right before they did the C-section on my wife, they actually had to give my wife, I believe it was a steroid to help the lungs produce in the baby, to help them develop. So it's just craziness knowing that there was going to be complications. And for a preemie to actually have the muscles in the neck, to actually move their body and their head, just shocked me. I knew that she was going to be a fighter.
Didn't really go into labor. It was more of my blood pressure went too high and they couldn't control it. So after they got blood work back, kidney enzymes, urine enzymes, it was determined that my liver and kidneys were failing. So they had to do a C-section. Otherwise, my life would be at risk as well as hers.
Anytime you have a mom that is as sick as Mrs. Nick, the baby will usually be in distress. To that end, we get everything set up in the unit to prepare for a critical admission. Respiratory is highly involved. Neonatology is already aware. They're usually in the building ready to go. All babies require some level of resuscitation, like even a perfect term newborn, no complications, regular vaginal delivery will need to be suctioned, stimulated, dried to transition to extrauterine life. Katie, with the extreme prematurity and the complications, required a much more extensive resuscitation process.
I came into the NICU and she had like Vaseline on her eyes, protectant. And when she heard my voice, she turned her head and looked at me. And I laughed because every day before I'd go to work, I would put my head to my wife's stomach and talk to her and tell her to have a good night, both of them. And just the factor that she recognized my voice and turned and looked at me, I laughed because that was like the greatest moment with her for me.
You know, she was very unstable. She needed blood transfusions. She had a PICC line inserted. She was on different medications. It's typical for preemies to have these episodes of bradycardia, which is the heart rate slowing down, and desaturation, which is their oxygen saturation would go down. And she did it often.
She was on the ventilator for a long time, a couple months, and we finally were able to wean her off the ventilator, and she was on another respiratory support system called Vapotherm, where it gives her a high flow to help her lungs stay open, and oxygen.
Couldn't believe everything that had happened, and that I was a second-time mom, because there was supposed to be more time in between my two children, and that she was here. It just all seemed like a bad dream, and I was waiting to wake up from it. It's kind of interesting, so not a first-time mom, and all those things that I really didn't appreciate with my first child, like putting clothes on them, changing a diaper, those are things you typically do. But when you have a preemie, you cherish every single thing you can do with your child. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Even though she's only 4 pounds now, but yeah. She's in a better place than she was when she first came out.
Parents expect to go to full term and deliver their baby and have their baby in the room with them all the time. Babies in the NICU, even a full-term baby in the NICU, mom can't have the baby in the room with her, but the preemie, especially, mom has to go home without. So it's a big difference. You go in, you know, thinking you're going to be able to have all this time bonding with your baby, and instead you have this chaotic, crazy few months. So that mom is, her whole normal newborn experience is taken away.
A lot of times when the parents come in, the first thing they ask us is, how much does the baby weigh? And then the second thing they usually ask is, when is my baby going home? From day one, we tell the parents near the baby's due date. So if the baby was due in 3 months, it may not be another 3 months before he goes home.
It's a journey for these parents. They have to move from one end of having a premature sick baby to getting ready to take them home. Sometimes they go home on oxygen and a monitor. Sometimes babies have to go to tertiary care centers before they can even go home, so the parents can learn how to care for them. It's been a struggle, and it's been a long journey for Mom and Dad, but they have been troopers along with Katie. I think Katie's been the biggest trooper of them all, determined to live. And she's breathing nice and easily, but she will go home on O2 and a cardiac monitor because her lungs are not strong enough to do it without the oxygen. And she'll need the monitor just in case something happens. The parents will have the monitor as a backup.
Adapting from hospital life to home life. Hopefully get her adjusted, or get Mikey, our son, adjusted to her quickly. Seeing another little one, and he's going to have no idea what to do. But he's a very caring and sharing child, so I think that he'll do just well with her. It's going to be interesting.